I can still feel the weight of that first dollar, crumpled in my pocket, smelling of greasy diner coffee where I scrubbed plates until dawn. It was 1998, and that dollar was my rebellion against a life of small-town limits. I built an empire from it, skyscrapers gleaming against the Manhattan skyline, my name etched on Forbes' list like a trophy. But no one warns you that every dollar you chase costs something dearer. For me, it was my family, my last name, the man I used to be. It hit me one October morning in my penthouse, the city's hum drowned out by a silence that choked me. I stood clutching a faded photo. Me, my wife, our two girls, their tiny hands holding kites we flew on a Jersey Shore summer. Now my daughter's numbers are blocked, my parents' line is dead, and my wife, Sarah, left a note on our granite counter. You chose this. We didn't. Her cursive cut deeper than any bankruptcy ever could. My last name, once my pride, feels like a lie, a hollow echo in a life I don't recognize. How did I lose them? Was it the deals I sealed while missing Lily's piano recitals? The nights I spent in boardrooms instead of reading to Emma? Or was it that one call I made 10 years ago, the one I can't speak of yet, that broke us beyond repair? I traded love for wealth, and now I'm bankrupt in ways no fortune can fix. This is a story of choices, regrets, and the ghosts I left behind. It's about a man who thought he could have it all, only to find his hands empty. I'm telling you this because I need to, because maybe my mistakes can save you from yours, or maybe I'm just searching for a way back to the man in that photo. What was that call? Who broke who first? Stay with me for this raw, real journey. I promise it'll hit home. If you've ever lost something you can't replace, hit that like button. Share your story in the comments. I'm reading every one. Subscribe because I need you with me to figure out what rich really means. That first dollar stuck to my fingers, greasy as the Jersey diner where I scrubbed plates at 19, its edges soft like a promise I didn't yet know I'd break. It wasn't just money. It was a middle finger to my town's sagging porches and rusted dreams, a vow to claw my way out of that nowhere life. I'd pocket it after a 12-hour shift, the stink of coffee and bacon clinging to my skin, my apron heavy with coins, but that dollar heavier with purpose. I'd sit in the back booth, the one with the cracked vinyl, sketching business plans on napkins, my hands shaking, not from exhaustion, but from a hunger that burned deeper than the diner's grill. Those plans were my map to somewhere else, anywhere but here, where my dad's cough echoed defeat and my mom's eyes held quiet surrender. Sarah was my anchor then, my high school sweetheart with hair like summer wheat and a laugh that could cut through my darkest moods. She'd slip gas money into my palm, her fingers warm, her eyes so bright with faith it scared me. "You're gonna be something," she'd whisper, and I'd believe her, because she saw a version of me I couldn't yet. I lied to my parents, told them I was studying at the library, but I was chasing deals, learning the language of men who owned the world. By 22, I'd landed a job at a Manhattan investment firm, all sharp elbows and sharper lies, where I learned to charm rich men out of their wallets, their egos softer than the diner's pancakes. I bought my first suit that year, a sleek black thing that cost more than my dad's rusted Chevy. It felt like armor, like I'd already won, like I'd shed the boy who smelled of grease. But at night, in my rented room with its peeling wallpaper and flickering bulb, I'd sit on the sagging mattress, cracking my knuckles, a nervous tic I couldn't shake. I'd trace Sarah's photo, her smile frozen in a Polaroid from senior prom, and feel a pang I didn't name. Was it guilt? Fear? I didn't know then that every deal I chased, every dollar I stacked, was a step away from her, from the boy she loved, from the promises we'd whispered under Jersey stars. I'd tell myself I was building something, for us, for a future where we'd never scrape by. But the truth? I was running, sprinting from the smallness of my parents' lives, from the weight of their disappointed glances. That dollar, That greasy, crumpled thing was my rebellion, my ticket to a life bigger than their faded dreams. I didn't see the cost. Not yet. I didn't see how each step toward Manhattan's skyline was a step away from Sarah's warmth, from the boy who'd sworn to stay. I didn't know that dollar was the first brick in a wall I'd build between us, one I'd spend years trying to tear down. And that knuckle crack? It was the sound of something breaking. Long before I knew what I'd lose, Manhattan hit me like a shot of cheap whiskey, burning and bright, its neon lights pulsing through my veins like a drug I couldn't quit. The city was alive, taxis honking, suits strutting, the air thick with power and promises. At 25, I closed my first $1 million deal, the kind that made my boss slap my back and call me a prodigy, champagne fizzing in crystal flutes that cost more than my rent. I was hooked, not on the money, but on the rush, the way the room tilted when I spoke, and men with Rolexes listened. I'd cracked my knuckles raw that day, a nervous tick that echoed in the quiet moments when I wasn't sure who I was becoming. Sarah came with me to the city, leaving her small-town roots for a shoebox apartment with peeling paint and a view of a brick wall. Her laugh, once my lifeline, started to fray at the edges, her eyes searching for the boy who'd sketched dreams on diner napkins. I'd come home at 3 a.m., reeking of cigar smoke and ambition, and find her asleep on the couch, a book splayed across her chest. I'd promised myself I'd make it up to her, but the next deal always called louder. I bought her a diamond ring, a sparkling apology for the dinners I missed, the nights I vanished into boardrooms. She'd twist it on her finger, her smile tight, and I'd tell myself it was enough. It wasn't. When Lily was born, her tiny fist curled around my finger, and for 10 minutes, I was hers, wholly, completely. Then my phone buzzed, a client's name flashing, and I stepped into the hall, leaving Sarah with our daughter's first cries. I didn't see her tears, didn't hear her whisper, "You're slipping away." I was too busy chasing the next high, the next deal that'd prove I wasn't my father, coughing his life away in a Jersey trailer. I overheard a colleague mention a risky deal for 2015, one that could make me untouchable or ruin me. I didn't tell Sarah, didn't want her worry dimming my shine. I cracked my knuckles and said yes to the meeting. The city's glow was a siren, pulling me deeper, its skyscrapers promising a life where I'd never be small again. But Sarah's silences grew longer, her eyes no longer bright but shadowed, like she was looking for a ghost. I'd catch her staring at our old photos, the ones from Jersey where we'd laughed under a boardwalk sunset, and I'd feel a stab of something, guilt, maybe, or fear. I'd push it down, tell myself I was building a future for us, for Lily, for the family I swore I'd protect. But the truth? I was addicted to the city's pulse, to the way it made me feel invincible. Each late night, each missed moment, was a brick in the wall between us. I didn't see it then, didn't see how Manhattan's glow was swallowing the boy Sarah loved. My knuckle crack was louder now, a warning I ignored, a sound that followed me into the dark, whispering that I was losing more than I'd ever gain. Lily's first birthday came, and I was in Hong Kong, sealing a deal that carved my name into Forbes's glossy pages. The hotel bar was all mirrors and bourbon, the kind of place where men like me pretended we'd won. My phone buzzed. Sarah, her voice tight as a wire. "Lily keeps asking for you, keeps pointing at your chair." I could hear her tears through the static, the way they cracked her words into shards. I promised I'd be home soon, my voice smooth as the lies I'd learned to sell. But another deal called, another chance to prove I wasn't my father's son, and I stayed, my knuckle cracking louder than the jet engines carrying me further from her. Back in Manhattan, we moved to a penthouse, all glass walls and sharp edges, the city's skyline glittering like a taunt. Sarah hated it, called it a cage, her voice low and jagged, like she was already halfway gone. I'd find her staring out those windows, her reflection pale, her hands twisting that diamond ring I thought would fix us. I didn't ask what was wrong, didn't want to hear it. I was too busy chasing headlines, too busy being the man who'd escaped Jersey's rust. But her silences were a language I didn't speak, a warning I didn't hear, and I kept running, my ambition a drug I couldn't quit. My parents came once, their worn shoes scuffing the penthouse's marble floors, their small-town pride out of place among my chrome and leather. My mom clutched a Tupperware of homemade cookies, her smile nervous. My dad's eyes darted, like he didn't trust the air up here. I rushed them out after a day, embarrassed by their flannel shirts and thick accents, ashamed of the boy they reminded me of. I didn't see their hurt, didn't see how my dismissal cut deeper than any deal I'd closed. I cracked my knuckles and turned away, back to my world of glass and power. One night, I came home to find Sarah's suitcase by the door, packed tight with her clothes, Lily's stuffed bunny peeking out. My heart lurched, but by morning it was unpacked, back in the closet like nothing had happened. I didn't ask why. I didn't want to know. I told myself it was stress, that she'd come around, that the penthouse and the money would be enough. But her eyes were different now, not bright but shadowed, like she was looking through me to someone I'd buried. I kept working, kept chasing, kept cracking my knuckles until they ached, ignoring the crack in us that was growing louder. That crack was there, in Lily's unanswered questions, in Sarah's packed bag, in my parents' silence as they left. I didn't hear it. Not then. I was too busy building an empire, too busy proving I was more than a diner kid. But it was there, splitting us apart, and I was the one holding the hammer. When did you last ignore a warning you wish you'd heeded? What would you give to go back? I didn't know then that those questions would haunt me, that the crack I ignored was the start of losing everything I swore I'd keep. It was 2015, a midnight call that sliced through the penthouse's silence, my phone's glow harsh against the dark. The client's voice was smooth, promising a deal that'd make me untouchable. A golden ticket to a world where no one could touch me, not my past, not my doubts. I said yes without blinking, my knuckle crack sharp as a gunshot, my gut twisting with something I couldn't name. It was a lie wrapped in numbers, a betrayal I dressed up as ambition, telling myself it was for Sarah, for Lily, for the newborn Emma sleeping down the hall. But the truth? I wanted it for me, for the rush of being bigger than my father's failures. Sarah found out, somehow, her intuition sharper than any contract I'd signed. She stood in our bedroom, Emma clutched tight, her eyes blazing like I'd never seen. "You sold your soul for this, didn't you?" she hissed, her voice a blade that cut through my defenses. I yelled back, my words hot and desperate, claiming it was for us, for the girls, for a future where we'd never want. She didn't believe me. Hell, I barely believed myself. Her silence after was worse than any scream, a void that swallowed every excuse I'd rehearsed. I cracked my knuckles until they burned, trying to drown out the truth in her eyes. The next morning, her ring sat on the granite counter, its diamond catching the cold dawn light, glinting like an accusation I couldn't dodge. I stared at it, my heart thudding, but I didn't pick it up. I went to work instead, burying the guilt under spreadsheets, marriage certificates, boardroom handshakes, telling myself I could fix it later. Sarah, the girls, everything. Later never came, not for us. I kept chasing deals, kept running from the look in her eyes, from the weight of that ring left behind like a ghost. That call wasn't just a deal. It was the moment I broke us, the moment I chose a lie over love. I didn't know the full cost then, didn't know how those numbers I chased would unravel everything. I'd told myself it was a small lie, a shortcut to the top, but it was a blade, sharp and final, cutting through the life we'd built. Sarah's words echoed in my head. "You sold your soul." And I pushed them down, locked them away with my knuckle crack, my nervous tick that betrayed the unease I wouldn't face. I thought I could outrun it, thought money could patch the holes I was tearing. But that call lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake, its details too raw to confess even now. It wasn't just about the money. It was about power, about proving I was more than a diner kid. I'd justified it, told myself it was for my family, but Sarah's ring on that counter told a different story. It said I'd chosen wrong, that I'd traded her trust for a throne I didn't even want anymore. I kept working, kept climbing, but every step up was a step away from her, from Lily's laughter, from Emma's tiny hands. That call was the crack that became a chasm, and I was too blind to see it widening beneath me. Emma took her first steps while I was in Dubai, her wobbly triumph captured in a grainy video Sarah emailed, her message a knife. You missed this too. I watched it on a hotel balcony, the desert air thick, my chest tight as Emma's tiny feet shuffled across our penthouse floor. Sarah's face was there, behind her, not smiling, but watching, her eyes hollow, like she was seeing a stranger in me. I sent gifts to make it right, paintbrushes for Lily, who'd sketch kites in her notebooks, books for shy Emma, who'd hide behind Sarah's legs. They came back unopened, returned to sender, scrawled in Sarah's sharp cursive. Each package a slap I deserved but couldn't face. My parents' calls stopped, their silence a wall I'd built with my own hands. I told myself they didn't get my world, my Manhattan, my deals. But the truth was colder. I'd pushed them out, ashamed of their small-town roots, their worn hands that didn't fit my glass empire. I cracked my knuckles until they ached, trying to drown out their absence. But it was there, heavy as the penthouse's silence. I hired a PI, a slick guy with a cheap suit, who tracked Sarah to a Brooklyn walk-up, where she was teaching again, braiding Lily's hair in a life I wasn't part of. I stood outside her building one night, rain soaking my coat, watching her laugh with the girls, their warmth a world away from my cold orbit. I found a note in my pocket later, Sarah's old handwriting, faded but sharp. Don't lose us. I'd carried it for years, unnoticed, like a warning I'd ignored until it was too late. My knuckle crack echoed in the dark, a nervous tick that couldn't quiet the guilt. I'd told myself I was building a future, that the money would fix us. But Sarah's new life, small, real, hers, said otherwise. She'd rebuilt without me, her strength a mirror to my weakness, her laughter with Lily and Emma a sound I'd traded for boardroom cheers. Every gift returned, every call unanswered, was a cut deeper than any deal I'd lost. I'd watched that video of Emma's steps, replaying it until the screen blurred, my eyes stinging with something I wouldn't call tears. I was a ghost outside their window, a man who'd chosen skyscrapers over kites, ambition over love. The PI's report sat on my desk, detailing Sarah's new routine. School drop-offs, grocery runs, a life that didn't need me. I kept working, kept chasing, but each deal felt hollow, each dollar a reminder of what I'd lost. Have you ever stood outside a life you built, realizing you're no longer part of it? I did, that night in the rain, my knuckle crack the only sound louder than my regret, a rhythm that followed me into the dark, whispering that I'd let them fade, that I'd chosen wrong, that the family I'd sworn to protect was now a memory I couldn't touch. Emma took her first steps while I was in Dubai, her wobbly triumph captured in a grainy video Sarah emailed, her message a knife. You missed this too. I watched it on a hotel balcony, the desert air thick, my chest tight as Emma's tiny feet shuffled across our penthouse floor. Sarah's face was there, behind her, not smiling but watching, her eyes hollow, like she was seeing a stranger in me. I sent gifts to make it right, paintbrushes for Lily, who'd sketch kites in her notebooks, books for shy Emma, who'd hide behind Sarah's legs. They came back unopened, returned to sender, scrawled in Sarah's sharp cursive, each package a slap I deserved but couldn't face. My parents' calls stopped, their silence a wall I'd built with my own hands. I told myself they didn't get my world, my Manhattan, my deals. But the truth was colder. I'd pushed them out, ashamed of their small-town roots, their worn hands that didn't fit my glass empire. I cracked my knuckles until they ached, trying to drown out their absence. But it was there, heavy as the penthouse's silence. I hired a PI, a slick guy with a cheap suit, who tracked Sarah to a Brooklyn walk-up, where she was teaching again, braiding Lily's hair in a life I wasn't part of. I stood outside her building one night, rain soaking my coat, watching her laugh with the girls, their warmth a world away from my cold orbit. I found a note in my pocket later, Sarah's old handwriting, faded but sharp. "Don't lose us." I'd carried it for years, unnoticed, like a warning I'd ignored until it was too late. My knuckle crack echoed in the dark, a nervous tick that couldn't quiet the guilt. I'd told myself I was building a future, that the money would fix us, but Sarah's new life, small, real, hers, said otherwise. She'd rebuilt without me, her strength a mirror to my weakness, her laughter with Lily and Emma a sound I'd traded for boardroom cheers. Every gift returned, every call unanswered, was a cut deeper than any deal I'd lost. I'd watched that video of Emma's steps, replaying it until the screen blurred, my eyes stinging with something I wouldn't call tears. I was a ghost outside their window, a man who'd chosen skyscrapers over kites, ambition over love. The PI's report sat on my desk, detailing Sarah's new routine, school drop-offs, grocery runs, a life that didn't need me. I kept working, kept chasing, but each deal felt hollow, each dollar a reminder of what I'd lost. Have you ever stood outside a life you built, realizing you're no longer part of it? I did, that night in the rain, my knuckle crack the only sound louder than my regret, a rhythm that followed me into the dark, whispering that I'd let them fade, that I'd chosen wrong, that the family I'd sworn to protect was now a memory I couldn't touch. A letter came from my mother, her handwriting shaky as a leaf in a storm. "I'm sick. Please come." I read it in my penthouse, the city's glow mocking me through the glass, and I didn't go. I told myself I was too busy, too buried in deals, but the truth was uglier. I was afraid of her eyes, of the disappointment I'd see there, the same look Sarah gave me before she left. I cracked my knuckles until they stung, trying to drown out her words, but they lingered, heavy as the guilt I'd carried since that 2015 call. I folded the letter, tucked it away, and kept working, like I could outrun my own cowardice. I tracked down Lily's school, picturing her at 12, sketching kites in her notebook, her artist's hands so like Sarah's. I sent a birthday card, poured my heart into it, hoping she'd see the father I wanted to be. It came back, wrong address, scrawled in red ink, sharp as a slap. I stared at it, my knuckle crack a frantic pulse, knowing it wasn't the address that was wrong, it was me. The lawsuit was gaining ground now, whispers of fraud from that 2015 deal spreading like wildfire, my empire trembling under the weight of my own lies. I'd thought I'd buried that call, but it was clawing its way back, a ghost I couldn't banish. I saw Sarah by chance in a Brooklyn cafe, her face older, fiercer, teaching Emma to read with a patience I'd never had. She didn't see me, didn't know I stood outside, my coat damp with rain, my heart thudding like it wanted to break free. I wanted to speak, to say I was sorry, but my voice stayed trapped, my knuckle crack the only sound I could make. I left, drove to my childhood home in Jersey, sat in the driveway where I'd once kicked rocks as a kid. The house looked smaller, sadder, like it knew I'd failed it. I remembered kites on the Jersey shore, Sarah's laugh, my parents' pride, and I cried, my tears blurring the memory into something I couldn't hold. The lawsuit's shadow grew darker, its details, my details, leaking to the press, my name no longer a trophy, but a target. I'd lied in that 2015 call, cut corners, betrayed a partner, all for a throne I didn't even want now. My board was whispering, their loyalty thin as the contracts I'd signed. I kept seeing Sarah's face in that cafe, her strength a mirror to my weakness, her life rebuilt without me. I'd wanted to be more than my parents' small lives, but I'd become less, a man who'd traded love for a lie that was now biting back. My mother's letter sat on my desk, its words a weight heavier than any deal I'd lost. I hadn't gone to her, hadn't faced her, and now her sickness was a clock I couldn't stop. Lily's card, Sarah's silence, the lawsuit's noose. They were all pieces of a life I'd broken, a puzzle I'd never solve. My knuckle crack was a confession, a sound that admitted I'd run too far, that the past wasn't done with me, that the boy who'd dreamed under Jersey stars was gone, and I was the one who'd let him go. The lawsuit hit the news like a sledgehammer, headlines screaming fraud, my 2015 call laid bare, a betrayal of a partner, a lie to Sarah, a stain that bled through my name. I'd cut corners, told myself it was for my family, but the truth tore through, sharp and unforgiving, stripping my empire to its bones. My board ousted me in a sterile conference room, their eyes cold, my name scrubbed from the company logo like I'd never existed. I cracked my knuckles until they bled, the sound a desperate pulse against the silence of my fall. But it couldn't drown out the headlines calling me a villain, a fraud, a ghost. I flew to Jersey, chasing some shred of redemption, and knocked on my parents' door, expecting their arms, their forgiveness. Instead, a lawyer greeted me, his suit cheap but his gaze sharp, handing me divorce papers with Sarah's signature. Cold, final, a blade I'd sharpened myself. Her lawyer said she'd known about the 2015 deal for years, had shielded Lily and Emma from my mess, her silence a strength I'd never seen. I stood there, rain soaking my skin, my knuckle crack a weak echo, realizing she'd been protecting them while I'd been chasing shadows, building a throne that crumbled under its own weight. I tried to see Lily and Emma at their school, desperate to glimpse their faces, to say I was sorry. The principal met me at the gate, her glare hard, her voice promising a restraining order if I came back. I left, my heart thudding, the truth of my absence heavier than any courtroom verdict. The media painted me as a monster, investors fleeing, my fortune dissolving like smoke. I'd thought I could outrun that call, that lie, but it was a noose, tightening with every article, every whisper that I'd sold my soul for a crown I didn't want. Sarah's strength haunted me, her silence louder than the headlines, her life rebuilt in a Brooklyn walk-up where I didn't belong. I'd wanted to be more than my parents' small lives, but I'd become less. A man who'd traded love for a deal that was now my undoing. The divorce papers sat on my hotel bed, Sarah's cursive a wound I couldn't close, each word a reminder of the family I'd lost. I cracked my knuckles, the sound frantic, but it couldn't erase the truth. I'd hurt people, hurt us, for a victory that tasted like ash. The lawsuit wasn't just about money. It was about the man I'd become, the one who'd lied to his partner, to his wife, to himself. I'd built an empire to Bing, but it was crumbling, and the world knew it. I sat in my rented Jersey room, staring at those papers, my knuckle crack a broken rhythm, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The truth had torn through, leaving me raw, exposed, alone. A father who'd failed, a husband who'd lied, a man who'd lost everything for a moment of greed. I couldn't run anymore, couldn't hide from the family I'd let fade, from the past that had finally caught me. The lawsuit was a guillotine, my own words, emails, that 2015 call, slicing me open, my voice on tape damning me with every playback. I fought it, hired a slick lawyer who promised miracles, but the evidence was a noose. My emails plotting the deal, my lies to my partner, my betrayal of Sarah. I'd sat in court, cracking my knuckles until they bled, watching my empire crumble, the headlines screaming fraud like a chorus I couldn't silence. I tracked down my parents' new address, a small Jersey house with faded paint, hoping to find forgiveness. My mother had died weeks ago, I learned, her funeral quiet, my father's door slamming shut in my face. I stood there, rain-soaked, my knuckle crack a desperate plea, but no one answered. I drove to Sarah's Brooklyn walk-up, my heart pounding like it could change the past. She opened the door, her face a mask of rage and pain, her voice venomous. "You hurt people for money. You hurt us." Emma, 10, peeked out, her shy eyes meeting mine, cold as the granite counter where Sarah's ring once lay. Lily wasn't there, her absence a wound deeper than the lawsuit's verdict. Sarah's words cut through. I'd chosen wealth over them, built an empire on lies that cost me my name. I tried to speak, to explain, but my voice broke, my knuckle crack louder than my guilt, and she shut the door, her strength a mirror to my failure. I sat in my car after, the rain hammering, my empire a hollow shell, my family a memory I couldn't touch. The lawsuit's evidence, my own hand, proved I'd betrayed my partner, lied to Sarah, traded love for a deal that shattered us. My mother's death, my father's rejection, Sarah's rage. They were the fall I deserved, the price of a 2015 call I'd justified as ambition. I'd wanted to be more than a diner kid, but I'd become less, a man whose knuckle crack echoed in the dark, a confession of every wrong choice. The media called me a villain, and I couldn't argue, couldn't outrun the truth that I'd broken my own life. Emma's eyes, Lily's absence, Sarah's words, they haunted me, heavier than any lost fortune. I'd built skyscrapers to escape my parents' small lives, but now I was a stranger to my own daughters, a ghost to my wife. The lawsuit wasn't just a legal fight, it was a mirror, showing me the man I'd become, the one who'd let ambition blind him to love. My knuckle crack was a rhythm of regret, a sound that followed me through Jersey's rain, through Brooklyn's streets, through a life I'd torn apart. I sat there, alone, the weight of their absence crushing me, knowing I'd earned every moment of this fall. I settled the lawsuit, losing half my fortune but dodging prison, a hollow victory that tasted like ash in my mouth. I sat in a Jersey hotel room, the settlement papers on the bed, my knuckle crack a broken beat against the silence of my fall. I wrote a letter to Sarah and the girls, every word a raw wound. My regrets, my lies, my desperate hope for a second chance. My hands shook as I mailed it, the envelope heavy with a truth I'd run from for years. A week later, Lily called, her voice sharp but trembling. "One chance, Dad." We met at a Brooklyn park, her and Emma, their eyes wary, their faces carrying Sarah's strength, my failure. I told them about the 2015 call, the lie that broke us, a deal I'd dressed up as ambition, betraying a partner, losing my family. Lily's sketchbook, a kite on its cover, was tucked under her arm, her artist's hands a reminder of the girl I'd left behind. Emma, shy and 10, clung to her sister, her eyes wide but distant, like I was a stranger she'd outgrown. I spilled my truth, my voice cracking like my knuckles, admitting how I'd let ambition blind me, how I'd give anything to undo it. They listened, silent, their faces stone, and walked away. But Lily looked back, just once, her eyes a flicker of the girl who'd flown kites with me on the Jersey shore, a spark I'd chase forever. The park was quiet, the air thick with autumn and regret, my knuckle crack the only sound louder than my heart. I'd built an empire to escape my parents' small lives, but I'd lost my name, my family, my soul. The lawsuit had stripped me bare, my own words, emails, that call, proving I'd sold my soul for a throne I didn't want. Sarah's divorce papers, my mother's death, my father's rejection, they were the price of my greed, a debt no fortune could pay. I'd wanted to be more, but I was less. A man whose knuckle crack confessed his sins, whose empire was a shadow I couldn't outrun. Lily's call was a lifeline, thin and frayed, but real. That flicker in her eyes wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start, a crack in the wall I'd built. I'm not the man in that faded Jersey Shore photo, not yet, but I'm fighting to be him, clawing through the wreckage of my choices. Every deal I chased, every lie I told, cost me more than money, cost me Sarah's laugh, Lily's art, Emma's trust. I stood in that park, raw and exposed, knowing I'd earned this fall, this loneliness, this truth. But that flicker, that glance, it's a spark I'll chase, a hope I'll bleed for, one honest step at a time. This story isn't over, isn't clean, isn't kind. It's raw, it's real, and it's mine. A confession of a man who lost everything chasing nothing. If this cuts you deep, if you've ever chased the wrong thing and paid the price, hit that like button. Drop your regrets in the comments. I'm reading every word, feeling them like my own. Subscribe, because this fight's not done, and I need you with me to learn what rich really means. Let's find it together, through the cracks I've made, through the flicker I'm chasing.